2004, Rockstar Games released Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, a game regarded by many to be some of the company's best work. It was praised for its storytelling, cast, and approach to delivering a compelling, immersive environment that undoubtedly helped push the market for open-world games further and further. And it appealed to a vast array of players, from those seeking an insightful parody of contemporary culture, all the way to people who just wanted to shoot people in a crime simulator. It was the kind of game that had something for everyone. Not only was it a competent entry in a culturally massive video game franchise, it's also remembered as an individual masterpiece. The game didn't land without its criticisms and controversies, but as the years have gone by and we now reflect 20 years down the line, the poorly received remaster notwithstanding, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is still beloved despite its age. And this is the case for many reasons. However, the reason I'm interested in today doesn't have much to do with what is there, but rather what isn't. You see, this game has a massive catalogue of myths and urban legends, anecdotal accounts of strange encounters had within the game, shared on a much younger internet, in an era where forum posts were the bulk of what people had to share stories of their experiences, and the landscape wasn't dominated by the likes of YouTube, where you could look up any one thing from the game to verify if it's present or not. As a result, these mysterious stories formed and matured, becoming an unofficial yet respected aspect to Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' identity. And it's those very urban legends that I wish to explore in today's video. So grab yourselves a brew, or perhaps even a biscuit or two, as we dive headfirst into the myths and urban legends of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Alright, so this is how this is going to work. The map of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is divided easily into 8 regions, 3 cities, and 5 rural districts, if you want to call them that. We have Los Santos, Red County, Flint County, Whetstone, San Fierro, Tierra, Robada, Bone County, and Las Venturas. And we're going to break the video down into chapters by region, in this fashion. Undoubtedly, the chapters will be erratic in length, but nevertheless it seems like a methodical approach. In this first chapter we'll be heading to the city of Los Santos, famous of course for
Grove Street, home. At least it was before I fucked everything up.
And we won't have to stray far from the home base of Grove Street to begin, where within the Johnson house, supposedly, players have reported encountering the spectre of Carl Johnson's deceased mother. Beverly Johnson was killed in a drive-by shooting, and the legend goes she haunts both this site and the Vinewood Cemetery, with haunting behaviours such as walking up and down the stairs while semi-transparent. The rumour is apparently false, but it's interesting nonetheless. That is going to be a bit of a running theme. But there is a reason behind why I have more patience for the myths and urban legends of Rockstar Games versus most others, but we'll come to that later on. Because we're about to dive well and truly off the deep end. Because remaining within the glorious Johnson abode, there is a strange mirror, and by that I mean just a mirror, that just so happens to have scuffed collision physics. Now this mirror can be found in all in-game safe houses, but I'm simplifying things by talking about it here, as the mirror in the Johnson house in particular is said to be possessed by, wait for it, Bloody Mary. This image is obviously the work of a mod. Evidently this is inspired by the real-life myth, in which if you chant Bloody Mary 3 times in a mirror, the story goes she will appear behind you and kill you, which is nice. But before you panic too much about that, relax. If a tormented spirit can hear you chanting in a mirror, she can probably hear you singing in the shower too. And I know which I'd prefer to kill someone over. It would appear as if there are mods that allow this event to occur, but there's no actual in-game evidence that supports this being a vanilla possibility. So to add some early levity to the video, a nice upbeat myth we can get out of the way is the presence of dogs in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. There are no dogs, which is a shame because I really like dogs. Here's a dog. I like him. But the absence of dogs didn't stop players from frantically searching for the precious beasts, to the point where Rockstar were compelled to make a joke about it in GTA 4. As for the searches, naturally they came up fruitless. Frankly, I find it hard to believe they don't exist in the 3D GTA universe, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're out there to be found. As for a more mythical encounter, for years players claimed there were mermaids in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, specifically off the coast of Los Santos. However, it seems as if these claims would fade into nothingness when the game's long-rumoured sharks were proven to exist. And since mermaids are effectively half human, half fish, the confusion is understandable, if not still slightly irrational. It would appear as if shark encounters are rare and they aren't hostile. Now, moving back to ghosts for a minute, I don't wish to dilute this video with random characters' ghosts who just happen to die in the main story. However, there are myths and legends regarding those too, so I can't ignore them. I'd offer a spoiler warning, but GTA San Andreas is 20 years old. If you haven't yet played it and don't want spoilers for the narrative, just skip to this timestamp on screen now. I'll even give you a nice 5-second grace period to think about that decision. Time's up. For instance, Big Smoke is said to haunt his crack palace. That's actually what it's called. Admittedly, it's a very huge and unsettling place to be, because after the conclusion of the story, there's nobody to be found here anywhere. Also, CJ's breaths become louder in here, which is interesting, but likely not got much to do with the entity of Big Smoke's spirit haunting this place. But players report hearing Big Smoke's voice, and also seeing his figure even after completing the main story, which should be impossible. It's also claimed the ghosts of Frank Tenpenny and Ryder can be sighted in Grove Street, and down towards the docks, Ralph Pendlebury is said to haunt the Ocean Docks warehouse. As a less spoilery apparition, we have the Jefferson Motel ghost, who of course is claimed to haunt a motel over in Jefferson. Interestingly, this place has an empty car park, and then inside it seems just as empty. Inside there's no life whatsoever, allowing you to roam the wings rather freely, wondering what in the JD Weatherspoon is going on with this floor. Following the main story mission featuring a shootout at the Jefferson Motel, the motel itself becomes abandoned, and so players have claimed this place has become home to a spirit. And sure, there is something disquieting about being the only human being in this building. However, pursuits of any prospective spectres have turned up fruitless. I'll have a sprunk though, go on lad. Wonderful gear. Another interesting myth is that of the Hellhounds. Large, dark, muscular, dog-like creatures found throughout various mythologies over millennia of human history. Now, these monsters have allegedly been sighted all across the San Andreas map. However, a hotspot for these sightings appears to be Ryder's backyard in Grove Street. It's believed this massive spade is confused for a hellhound for some reason. However, it's believed to be unlikely there are indeed any hellhounds to be found in the game. Moving on, the Vinewood Cemetery is home to its fair share of myths and mysteries too. For instance, this is another place where players have claimed to encounter the ghost of CJ's mother. There was also graffiti here that in the original version of San Andreas was only visible at night. Players have also reported encountering zombies here, and though those sightings have been debunked, there is a Zombotech corporation in San Fierro working on researching a zombie virus of all things. Players have also claimed to have encountered Pyramid Head at the Vinewood Cemetery, and Pyramid Head is a character from 2001's Silent Hill 2. Pyramid Head is a man with a pyramid for a head and is believed to be a hoax, probably on account of copyright for one, but all sightings are believed to be either the result of mods or indeed edited screenshots. Other Vinewood Cemetery myths include the Pocong, a Malay and Indonesian myth regarding spirits of the deceased whose funeral cloths were not removed. In Malaysia, this particular spirit is known as Hantu Bunkus, and it will not leave until it's freed. As far as GTA is concerned, this legend is believed to be false. It's also believed, among others, this cemetery can also be the hunting grounds of a grave robber. However, that particular myth remains unverified. There's also a popular myth that Chucky from Child's Play can spawn on Grove Street, but I'm not even going to entertain the idea of that one. For now, it's time to shift onwards and leave Los Santos well and truly in the rearview mirror as we venture north to Red County. This is where things start to get interesting. The rural areas of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas being less populated not only contrasted the cities, but also had this strange feeling about them. Being an older game, it relied on the technical limitations of the time to provide an atmosphere, i.e. through fog. Atmosphere arguably lost on the definitive edition, but it's from this fog that we got some truly fascinating urban legends. Or should I say rural legends, as we're no longer somewhere urban. Never mind. For instance, we have the myth of the woods creature. This legend technically spans across the counties of Red County, Flint County, and Whetstone, but I promise you're not going to miss me talking about it later. The woods creature was initially coined as a vague term to describe various encounters had in the woods of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, before soon becoming referred to as its own entity rather than an all-encompassing term. Nonetheless, thanks to its vague name, it's unclear what this woods creature would even be, with supposed witnesses having vastly differing ideas as to its appearance. As you can imagine, with such vagary at play, it's become the topic of some controversy. And it's even speculated that the woods creature may be various creatures, but it's hard to define what this legend is trying to get at without more specific information. On the topic of demons, I'm surprised it took this long for them to crop up. By the player's safe house in the town of Blueberry, one can find what appears to be a demonic face, marked on the floor. It's unclear if that's what the texture is intended to be, but it certainly allowed player imaginations to run wild with the notion of an occult presence within the township. Moving on, up next we have a fairly popular myth, Leatherface. Also known as the Chainsaw Killer and Panopticon Killer, the legend of Leatherface within San Andreas appears to be a nod to the presence of the antagonist from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This legend appears to date back to the release window of the game, where it gained traction on forum posts and the like. Rumours of Leatherface's unlikely presence revolve around the Panopticon area, due to documentation of peculiar chainsaw noises in the area at night. Reports also suggested the killer could attack players, usually approaching from the rear. Interestingly, another popular location for sightings of this Leatherface is on a dock at Fisher's Lagoon, where the player can find a rusty wheelchair, which is suspected to be a reference to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and therefore a hint to Leatherface's existence, but it could just as easily be a reference to Rockstar Games' own Manhunt. I did spend some time to try to activate this one to see if it had any water whatsoever, and nothing happened. However, since we're here at Fisher's Lagoon, there's another myth to talk about, the Loch Ness Monster. Now I take issue with referring to it as the Loch Ness Monster because that would imply that we're at Loch Ness in Scotland and not at Fisher's Lagoon, but players have reported encountering a similar beast to the Loch Ness Monster here, with black lines in the water at Fisher's Lagoon and the creature popping its head up supposedly. Apparently, Rockstar even came out and said that there is no Loch Ness Monster in San Andreas, therefore images circulating online are likely the work of mods. Speaking of mods, Fisher's Lagoon is supposedly home to an array of bipedal creatures that will appear on the shores and attack the player. It's said these monsters have high health and are difficult to kill in return, but like I opened with, this does appear to be just a mod. Next up we have the widely regarded false legend of the Ring Girl, also known as Samara, and the TV Ghost. Originally reportedly cited in a YouTube video that was uploaded in 2006, in which the silhouette of a woman appeared in front of a television in CJ's living room. Thanks to mods, however, the legend would appear to become associated with the biowell in Montgomery, Red County, where at night the well glows green. The Headless Man is another myth of curious origins here in Red County, where allegedly a headless man wearing nothing but swimming trunks can be found near the town of Blueberry, and will attack and kill anybody who gets too close. However, like many other myths in this game, this appears to just be the handiwork of a mod, allowing us to turn our attention to a relatively obscure myth known as the Red County Sniper. Reportedly, a mysterious sharpshooter spawns on a water tower on a farm near Montgomery, Red County, and will disappear if you get too close. The source of this myth appears to be a YouTube video by that guy, and there's no evidence to suggest there is indeed such a sniper. Furthermore, there are limited reports regarding it, so we're going to move on. Fog is a major part of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' identity, so a legend about green fog is almost certainly going to turn heads. Green fog is a phenomenon said to be in the original version of the game that can be observed in both Red and Flint counties. Now apparently this fog can be observed under very specific circumstances, typically around bodies of water, and the story goes it's caused by water pollution from nearby chemical plants. Either way, it's interesting, somewhat. Our next myth pertains to strange occurrences within the Dillamore Police Department that appears to stem from a now deleted YouTube video, in which the uploader shot while inside the building only for the police to simply not react, at least not in the way the police would be expected to react if somebody ran into their station with a gun. Furthermore, the video included the sounds of screaming coming from somewhere within the building, and dead bodies in the cells. The only untoward thing I could find, however, was a gun that was just out in the open here. But I've got to acknowledge that I've not been using the original San Andreas. I couldn't find much regarding this police station in accordance with Grand Theft Auto myths online, but I did find it to be curious nonetheless. What it could mean, God knows. The Kuntilanak is an Indonesian myth regarding a woman who died prior to childbirth, and it's said there is one in GTA San Andreas around the Panopticon area of Red County. This spirit is said to lure the player in by yelling like an infant. Now this myth with respect to San Andreas is regarded as false, however there are mods that allow this thing to occur. And with that we must venture forth, southwest of Red County into Flint County, towards regions famous for some of San Andreas' most infamous myths. To begin with, let's talk about the Killer Cowboy. The Killer Cowboy is an NPC typically sighted away from populated areas who can spawn armed with various weapons and allegedly attack the player for seemingly no reason. Normally spawning in rural areas at night, this particular pedestrian is known to spawn between Backer Beyond and Shady Creeks in Whetstone, which is odd as these regions are otherwise unpopulated. The NPC's presence is apparently proven to be a thing, however the rumours begin regarding the attacking of the player. But you know what? I like this guy, and I'm going to call him Dave. Another myth in quotation marks with some actual basis are the ghost cars. In various places across the world map you can find an old beaten up variant of the Glendale car, known in the game files as the Glen Shit. This car has every single panel damaged and cannot be repaired in a pay and spray. However, things get interesting when you head out to Flint County's Backer Beyond, where these Glendales spawn in droves. And what's more interesting is they aren't always stationary when they do. Often they can be spotted rolling into view without a driver, and gathering in the woods. Where did these cars come from? Where are the drivers? And why are they always identically damaged Glendales? What an absolutely strange phenomenon. But I can confirm that this is 100% true, which is more than I can say for most things in this video. The car moving on its own implies that it's been abandoned recently, but there are so many cars and I doubt a group of people are abandoning their identical vehicles at the same time, much less in the same place. And it will be a strange hobby for somebody to collect these haggard Glendales and roll them down the hills of Backer Beyond for fun. But this is Grand Theft Auto, and this wouldn't be the strangest hobby for the GTA universes. While we're in Backer Beyond, there's a texture on a rock that's said to resemble an angel. Players have also claimed it could be a nod to the Pyramid Head, but I just think it's a texture on a rock. So let's move on and talk about the Spy. Rumour has it that while exploring Backer Beyond, presumably in a tattered old Glendale as they appear to grow on trees around here, players will receive a strange phone call, during which time in the distance you can spot a character with a camera aiming it at Carl Johnson, who will then leave when the call ends. This one hasn't been debunked necessarily, but there isn't much supporting evidence for it, so we're going to move on and talk about the Creeper. Not this Creeper, don't get excited. The Creeper is a demonic looking fellow from the movie series Jeepers Creepers that I've never heard of. Supposedly he's extremely dangerous and cannot be killed by the player if encountered. Apparently he drives a unique van filled with corpses and is said to be findable in both Flint County and Bone County. However, his existence can be traced back to a mod, casting doubt on his presence in the vanilla game. So let's next turn our attention to the Tree Man, a myth that arose from a video uploaded to YouTube in 2009. by a user named Kevin Champagne, who, while exploring Backer Beyond of all places, encountered a mobile tree that could move in ways not dissimilar to an NPC. Speculation quickly descended to the tree man being the result of creepy forces in the woods, with more rational theories believing that a glitch may be the culprit. After all, YouTubers are too impeccably credible for this to be a contrived occurrence, right? That was aimed at myself as much as anybody else, I promise. Moving on, of course there's a rumour about bears, as bears are cool and dangerous. There is a rumour that bears were initially intended to be included in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, however were cut from the game before release. Players have however claimed to sight bears in Backer Beyond and Ghost Lake in Flint County, however the evidence to suggest their presence goes wanting. So no, there probably aren't any bears, and it would be a rather pedestrian myth. So let's move on and discuss a location connected to the Epsilon program known simply as the Farm. Now, the Epsilon program is a religious cult within the Grand Theft Auto universes, both 3D and HD, that may or may not be a money laundering scheme. And the myth goes, farms are popular places for cults to gather, I suppose. Now, what makes this farm stand out as possibly related to the Epsilon program is that in the original version of San Andreas, not the remaster as I found out, at night time the windows of the farmhouse turn blue. And the Epsilon program loves the colour blue, baby blue to be specific. There are more or less identical farmhouses not far afield where this phenomenon does not occur, so that leaves us with a rather curious question indeed. What's going on here? Are the Epsilon program up to something here, or is it just an oddly specific lighting glitch? The fact I couldn't get this to occur in the definitive edition suggests to me the latter. So moving on, the Psycho is an unused NPC found within the game files under the name psycho.txd. And naturally, with a name as friendly as that, the Psycho became the subject of many rumours. And the myth regarding him goes, he's a serial killer found in Flint County. It's said that when encountered, the Psycho will attack you, either armed with a knife or a firearm. However, it's believed to be unlikely this ped is actually in the game. And thus we shift onward to the Tunnel Monster. The tunnel creature is a pitch-black humanoid-looking figure that is said to inhabit the railway tunnel situated just to the north of the farmstead at Leafy Hollow. However, the images suggesting this tunnel apparition is a real thing came from a YouTube video, and its credibility is disputed. Anyway, while we're here, the railways of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas are said to be home to ghost trains. However, they're more like glitched trains than anything else. So moving onward, in Backer Beyond, there is a question mark made out of tree, and I suppose that's more of a curiosity than much else, but it is on brand for such a mysterious location as Backer Beyond Flint County. But for now, it's time to leave Flint County behind and venture forth to perhaps the most interesting part of the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas world map, at least with regards to myths and urban legends. Whetstone, home to the legendary Mount Chiliad. This region is widely regarded for being home to some of the game's most notorious myths. I'm sure there will be an experience or two in store for us here. Okay, that isn't what I had in mind. It's here where we can encounter the GTA myth, Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a rather famous North American cryptid that is something of a cultural icon, especially in the realm of cryptozoology. Defined as an elusive, unidentified species of giant ape man, variants of this beast are claimed to exist the world over. However, despite the sensationalization, there's very little to indicate Bigfoot is a real thing. However, this didn't stop rumours arising that Bigfoot was findable in the map of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, with emphasis on sightings around Flint County and Whetstone, in particular surrounding Mount Chiliad. From the game's launch in 2004, players have combed San Andreas more or less conclusively in hopes of sighting the creature. There have been various claimed sightings of the beast, along with alleged image evidence. However, these images do appear to be mods, and so any authentic pursuits of Bigfoot within the world of San Andreas have proven fruitless, as the iconic mysterious ape man does not appear to be present. However, in a brochure that came with physical copies of the original game, there was a thanks to section inside which mentions Bigfoot, which I'm sure is a coincidence and has its own explanation, but it's a cool coincidence. Searches even expanded to the game files themselves, with those who looked returning no results, but unable to dismiss the theory entirely, instead arose the notion of phantom files. Files disguised or cleverly hidden in such a way that data mining could return no results with regards to myth hunting. But that would assume that San Andreas' massive myth hunting community was an anticipated phenomenon, and I just don't see that being the case, or more of these myths would hold water. In 2005, Terry Donovan, co-founder of Rockstar Games, would weigh in on the Bigfoot myth, claiming there is no Bigfoot, just like in real life. And that to me is as concrete a confirmation as any that Bigfoot is not findable within the open world of San Andreas. But that has not stopped the legend from echoing through the years. In fact, this myth is so revered it's often regarded as being the start point for Grand Theft Auto myth hunting in general. And Rockstar even added Bigfoot into Grand Theft Auto 5, though it was just a bloke in a costume. A nice joke at the player's expense, no doubt. This legend would expand laterally to encompass the Yeti, which is Bigfoot again but for colder environments, for instance the summit of Mount Chiliad. But this rumour is more easily dismissed as outright false. So let's turn our attention to another popular San Andreas myth, Fizhy. Fizhy is an antagonist from the 2003 Rockstar horror game Manhunt. A serial murderer who wears a severed pig's head as a mask, Fizhy is said to be findable within the world of San Andreas, and he certainly is as an Easter egg. However, the rumour goes he can also be found as more or less the real thing around Mount Chiliad and in shady creeks, and will attack the player armed with a chainsaw. However, aside from mods that make it otherwise, there's very little to suggest that Fizhy is in the game. And that's just as well, because that would be absolutely horrifying. So let's move on now to the Mount Chiliad Angel. Supposedly, while at the summit of Mount Chiliad, looking out over the sky in front of you, you may catch a glimpse of a cloud-like apparition that appears to be an angel. Considering the nearest town is called Angel Pine, this wouldn't be out of place. However, the credibility of this being a thing is scant, and most supposed evidence appears to be the work of mods. So next up we have the reports of horrific voices heard atop Mount Chiliad. The Mount Chiliad voices are a series of supposed audio files audible from more or less the summit of the mountain, the most popular of which being screams. Players have speculated that this is the handiwork of present ghosts. However, the most likely explanation is a spawn glitch in which freshly spawned pedestrians immediately fall to their deaths. While we're up this way, the Mount Chiliad cabin is host to a plethora of myths. Situated halfway up the mount to the west of the summit, this empty cabin surrounded by tall, dark trees is the perfect place for myths and legends to fester. Bigfoot and the Yeti, Fizhy, the infamous woods creature we know nothing about, and the aforementioned Mount Chiliad horror voices are supposedly all encounterable here. And this all-star cast is joined most recently by rumours of Slender Man. Look, if you believe Slender Man is in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, I know it takes an open mind to believe the vast majority of these myths and legends, but you truly are gullible, as Slender Man's only really been a thing since 2009, a whole 5 years after Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' release, and was only made popular in the 2012 horror game Slender the 8 Pages. There are various myths surrounding San Andreas that I simply can't take seriously, and this is the one that springs to mind. Furthermore, I doubt Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th is in the game. I'm certain I pronounced his surname wrong, but I'm not interested. And I can't suspend my disbelief with Ghostface and Freddy Krueger either. I also struggle to entertain the idea of the presence of Michael Myers from the Halloween movies, so we'll venture forth. As next up for discussion is the werewolf. This legend seems to chiefly stem from the anecdote of a player who claims to have been attacked by a creature not dissimilar to a werewolf at a location known as the Shady Cabin in Whetstone in the middle of the night. Werewolves are obviously popular mythical beasts, stemming from the popular legend of a man being able to transform into a monster. However, this legend doesn't have much basis, but there's something about the notion of a werewolf that unsettles me more than most things. The idea of a man who can transform into a beast or a bipedal giant wolf that's hyper-aggressive just fascinates me. But that doesn't mean I necessarily believe this legend, I just don't. Next up, we have the myth of the Junkyard Killer, a murderous individual who is said to spawn at the Angel Pine Junkyard, and armed with a shotgun he will shoot anybody who gets too close. This appears to be a counterpart to the Headless Man myth from earlier, and gained some traction courtesy of a mod called Mythomix, which added various myths to the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas world. However, in the vanilla game, he doesn't exist. Another Whetstone legend is that of the Giant. Now, if this one was legitimate, I think it would be hard to avoid, as giants are giants and can be seen from a mile away. Nevertheless, the Giant is rumoured to lurk in the forested areas of Mount Chiliad, and it appears the bulk of the sightings appear to be the handiwork of a mod once again. So, moving onwards, we have the legend of the Thunderbird, a supposedly large, fast, and aggressive avian of some description, reportedly capable of attacking the player. Sightings of this creature appear to revolve around shady creeks. However, this appears to be another mod-perpetuated fabrication. Speaking of mod-perpetuated myths, we also have the Cave Demon, a demon said to inhabit the Mount Chiliad Natural Arch. This demon is said to have green skin and brandish horns, and is rumoured capable of leaving fiery chaos in its wake. This one yet again boils down to a modder having some fun. But before I begin to sound like a broken record on that front, if I don't already, I apologise. Let's venture north to San Fierro. San Fierro is obviously based on the real-life city of San Francisco. It's famed for its steep inclines, trams, and one bridge in particular. It's also the birthplace of Eddie Lowe from Grand Theft Auto 4, and though this is in a different universe, if it wasn't, he'd be a young man around now, probably pottering around somewhere in San Fierro, thinking about killing people. A truly delightful childhood. Now, this should be a comparatively short chapter, as according to my research there aren't an awful lot of myths and urban legends regarding this place. The first myth of note is that of Alcatraz, a prison located in real life on an island in the San Francisco Bay that was abandoned in the 1960s and was apparently haunted. Now, it seems an island similar to Alcatraz was going to appear in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, however, it was cut from the final version of the game. That said, some in-game maps do actually include this isle, and undoubtedly, due to the supposed hauntings of its real-life counterpart, if the GTA San Andreas version of Alcatraz made it into the final version of the game, it would have been a hotspot for myth hunters. So I suppose this urban legend is about the urban legends that players didn't get to come up with, and if that doesn't indicate how absolutely insane this rabbit hole is, I don't know what will. Next up, I've already touched down upon the Zombotech Corporation, which occupies an office building in San Fierro. On their sign they refer to themselves as a sinister zombie virus research corporation. It's likely an Easter egg to Resident Evil and little more, but to firm GTA myth believers, this may indicate the existence of a zombie virus, or simply research into creating or treating one. And the word sinister doesn't necessarily imply treating. However, there is an inaccessible zombie lab as indicated by an inaccessible elevator. So it's unclear what, in correlation to the 3D GTA universe, the Zombotech Corporation is there to do outside vaguely researching zombie viruses, let alone the undoubtedly alarming basis of said research. The next San Fierro myth is that of the Midnight Clown. Now, clowns are present in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I don't trust them. I don't trust clowns. I don't like clowns. I'm not afraid of clowns, but admittedly they are a bit disquieting to look at. If somebody dresses up how you feel when you have to explain what it is you do for a living, the safest option is to abscond. Anyway, the Midnight Clown is a particular clown said to lurk around City Hall San Fierro in the middle of the night, popularised by a now unlisted YouTube video by Ray Mythhunter, published as recently as 2017. There are strange reports of bloodstains found in the area, as well as footsteps and evil laughter, but the Midnight Clown is largely dismissed as just a myth. But there is something unsettling about clowns, whether it be the aesthetic choices or the life choices of the man who decides to dress up as one. If there are any actual professional clowns watching this video, say hello in the comments. I am going to batter Ronald McDonald. San Fierro also has a couple tall tales about ghosts. For instance, Pier 69 is said to be a popular spawn point for Ryder's ghost, and it's also said the spirit of T-Bone Mendez crops up here too. But besides from that and some run-of-the-mill lighting glitches that are rather on brand for San Andreas, it would appear as if San Fierro is relatively underserved when it comes to myths and urban legends. So to innocently fluff out this chapter a bit, please enjoy Carl Johnson innocently smashing several meat stacks and then vomiting.
Hope we see you again, sir. Please enjoy your meal. Munch your way to bliss, sir. I have enjoyed serving you, sir. I hope you enjoy your meal. Sir, I can't serve you.
And with that, it's time to venture north, to lovely old Tierra Robada. I hope I pronounced that right, but I'm not putting money on it. This is the northwesternmost county in GTA San Andreas. It's not a huge region either, so I don't suspect it will be a long part of this video. However, it is home to a couple noteworthy legends. For instance, we have the Church of Satan, a church in the town of Bayside, that in the original version of the game was dark during the day, but blindingly bright at night, and obviously a lighting glitch in a game notorious for them, too boring an explanation. And thus the theory goes that this is an occult church, a theory reinforced by stained glass windows featuring angels with blackened wings. There also appears to be a myth regarding encounters with a demon in the area surrounding the church, and this demon is known as the Bayside Demon. However, evidence is obviously light on that front, otherwise it wouldn't be a myth anymore, would it? Moving on, the ghost town of Aldea Malvada is said to be a site where players can encounter animated skeletons. And though these skeletons are believed to be of the Porky Pies variety, the town name Aldea Malvada does translate from Spanish to Evil Village. And that makes it interesting even in absence of anything interesting. It appears to be a very old, dilapidated, abandoned settlement from a bygone age, and it's said this site could indeed be haunted. Furthermore, this site has been connected to another myth, the Cane Killer, an aggressive ped supposedly carrying a cane that will attack the player on sight. However, nothing else is really known about the Cane Killer, so it is possible, but it's also just as likely a glitch of some variety, or indeed the product of a clickbait YouTube video. Therefore, it's a fairly controversial myth in its simplicity, and we're going to shift onwards to a relatively popular topic of discussion known as Mr. Trenchcoat, a particular NPC who spawns both here in Tierra Robada and over in Bone County, known for peculiar dialogue in which he believes he's been abducted by aliens, who for good measure may also be a serial killer. Players have reported witnessing this NPC attacking others, and in some instances attacking the player unprovoked. However, these sightings may be the result of cheats or mods. All that's known is the PED model does exist and reliably spawns in the northern part of the map first and foremost, and is associated with spouting strange dialogue, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he kills people. And as another myth of sorts, we have the ruined lighthouse, which is what appears to be a former lighthouse now laying in ruins, located not far from the Bayside Marina. Now, all we can actually find is the base of the structure. However, it's believed there was a complete version that was removed before the final release of the game. Why it would be removed if this was the case is entirely unclear, but all that remains is a redundant viewing platform. Anyhow, with that, the time has come to venture forth from Tierra Robada, onward to Bone County. On the front of myths and legends, Bone County is an undeniable hotspot. Situated west of the oasis of Las Venturas, Bone County can be defined as a desert, home to a spoof version of Area 51 known as Area 69. It's no shocker that one of this place's most popular myths is the aliens. The existence of aliens in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas isn't just a myth, but also something of a passing fact. They're commonly reported as able to be encountered in and around Area 69. They're described as lean grey creatures with black eyes. And though the myth of physically encountering them is just that, Area 69 has its assortment of jokes and secrets that would suggest the aliens do indeed exist in this universe. For instance, dialogue when inside the facility in a main story mission that states, if anybody's caught stealing alien technology, they won't be invited on the next staff night out, and all personnel working on alien bodies must evacuate immediately. Aliens are also mentioned by other characters such as the legendary Mr. Trenchcoat. However, none of this suggests they are physically findable. So let's swiftly pivot to UFOs. UFOs are referenced in various places, for example the Lil Probe Inn not far from Area 69. There are various pictures on the walls in here depicting various UFOs, to be particular those of the flying saucer variety. And in the back room there appears to be a map with spots where it might be possible to observe these unidentified flying objects. If this is the case, it would appear as if UFOs are visible in Red County, Flint County, Bone County, Tierra, Robada, and perhaps even Las Venturas. Now, while looking to the sky at night, there's a particular phenomenon that can be observed, and that's a small flickering light flying at a high altitude with a stream behind it. And in the game files, this is referred to as the UFO light, which I suppose confirms UFOs to be present in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. However, a game file name isn't an actual confirmation and could just as easily be an inside joke. Furthermore, I know we're a bit too off our faces on confirmation bias for this, but there is an argument in the realm of semantics to be had about UFOs simply meaning unidentified flying objects, and not necessarily extraterrestrial spaceship. But to further add to the theory of alien activity in the region, we also have the Big Ear Radio Telescope, the name of which is based on the Ohio State University Radio Observatory, the radio telescope famed for identifying the WOW signal in 1977. A unique radio signal of extraterrestrial origins, preceded and succeeded by nothing similar to it. And as of the 1990s, the Big Ear was still looking for extraterrestrial radio transmissions. Perhaps this in-game version is doing the same thing. Another myth that may lump into this is the falling black dots that can be observed across the entire map on a clear night sky, in which black dots appear to fall from the sky. These are only observable if the player is looking up at the sky, as they're a bit too quick to be seen otherwise. It's said these falling black dots can be observed most frequently at Mount Chiliad and in Bone County, specifically around the Area 69 area. Players have argued over what these black dots can mean, from extraterrestrials to the Mothman to glitches, so on and so forth. As for what I think they mean, in a vacuum, the most logical explanation is a glitch of some description. Perhaps these are shooting stars that have rendered in the wrong colour. Who knows? But it is interesting. But with that, let's move off of the topic of aliens and discuss the Mothman. Based on the real-life sightings of a creature of the same name in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the Mothman is said to be a giant insect-like creature with red eyes and a furry body. Now, this myth appears to have emerged before San Andreas was even released, and upon the release of the game it would appear as if sightings concentrated in Bone County, but the creature could be witnessed the whole open world over. If pursuing the Mothman, it's said that stormy weather will elevate your chances of encountering it. However, there is precious little to suggest this is an actual thing in the game, so don't necessarily go getting your hopes up. Next up on the discussion block, we have the topic of the smoke monster. This myth was seemingly created by a YouTuber called the Albert17, who basically claims the smokestacks in Octane Springs Industrial Park, Bone County, are sentient. So let's not entertain that one further and turn our attention to the myth of the Sandmen. Supposedly around the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Bone County, you can encounter aggressive sand people that will attack the player. However, this appears to be yet another Mythomix mod creation. This appears to also be the case for a myth of a rockman in Bone County, and it would appear as if mods are the explanation for the legend of there being mutants in the desert too, so we'll move on from those. The legend of the Chupacabra appears to be based on the real-world myth of the same name. Its name, Chupacabra, quite literally translates to goat sucker, and it's a beast believed to suck the blood of livestock. In the real world, anecdotes of its appearance vary from that of a Bigfoot-like vampiric monster all the way to a mangy dog. Now, what calls this myth into question with regards to San Andreas is the absence of livestock from the game. So why would there be a monster that preys on livestock if the livestock doesn't exist? So moving on, there is a ghost town in Bone County that appears to be based on an old western boomtown, and players have reported observing a creepy figure in this abandoned town. However, any encounters have proved to be the handiwork of either modifications or Photoshop savvy individuals looking to trick people. Anyway, out in the sticks in Bone County, one can happen upon a mass grave. Situated to the northwest of Area 69, there's a hole, inside which one can observe body bags. These body bags appear to be full, which would indicate this is the site of recently disposed of human remains, which could indicate some shady goings on within the region of Bone County. Whether that be something to do with the nearby Area 69 that almost certainly has an incinerator for this sort of thing, or is the indication of an active serial killer in the region, it's alarming nonetheless. Players have come up with a number of theories regarding who could be responsible for these killings, implicating poor old Mr. Trenchcoat just because, but my favourite theory implicates radio host of K-Rose, Mary Beth Mabel, who in a broadcast claims to have had 6 husbands, all of whom are 6 feet under. She also states she lives in the Bone County region and drives a pickup truck. There are 6 bodies in this ditch, which happens to be accompanied by a pickup truck, and we also happen to be in Bone County, which is an interesting series of coincidences. And finally for Bone County, we have the story of the promiscuous priest, who is said to be a priest in a camper van engaging in illicit activities, or as I like to call him, a priest. Now the myth is quite straightforward. This man of the cloth can be seen soliciting naughty business from sex workers, and does so out in the desert away from prying eyes. And you know what? Fair enough, lad. Enjoy. There are other myths in Bone County, such as mysterious birds that I can't make sense of, and the Fort Carson cave monster that appears to be the result of mods. But in the spirit of cracking on, let's fly forwards to our final county, the city of Las Venturas. Based on the real-life city of Las Vegas, Las Venturas, as you can imagine, is quite the place, home to illicit clubs and gambling galore. Despite being situated in a desert, this is not the kind of holiday destination you come to pick up a suntan. You're here to gamble your life savings away on the slot machines while the moth brains hover around you waiting their turn. And it's in doing this that you may catch a glimpse of the casino poltergeist. For those who aren't aware of what the word poltergeist means, a poltergeist is a kind of spirit that doesn't manifest in a visible form, however makes its presence known by chucking shit around. It's said that one such poltergeist frequents the casinos of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, as the Wheel of Fortune can be observed spinning itself. I suppose this is most likely a technical glitch, but it does make for an interesting detail. And it is quite tame for poltergeist activity, so I'm going to stick with this being an unintentional byproduct of a glitch. Next up is the theory of the Casino Destroyer, a security guard who apparently wants to blow up a casino for some reason, who can be spotted throughout Las Venturas according to the legend. Apparently this myth was started by a YouTuber in the myth hunting space, and revolves around the idea of a security guard who just so happens to be carrying dynamite for some reason. Now this next myth doesn't actually have much to do with Las Venturas at all, but is nearby to it. It's said that to the northeast of the city, out to sea, the player can find the wreckage of the RMS Titanic, or at least a vessel similar to it. And this comes as the tip of the iceberg with regards to players spotting shipwrecks within Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. However, there are no known shipwrecks anywhere on the GTA San Andreas map, let alone any that resemble the RMS Titanic. So in that respect, the myth falls short of being truthful, and so any images that exist are likely the handiwork of mods. And that's kind of it for stuff of substance in Las Venturas. There are theories of a time traveller being present here, but that appears to be false. I could also find rumours of a lizard man in the area that I could trace back to mods. But you get the idea, it's not an awfully myth-heavy place, which is a shame. Perhaps it doesn't quite capture the imagination quite like Whetstone or Bone County. Perhaps everyone who comes here is too busy on the slots machines. But that does complete our circuit of the San Andreas map, and all that remains is to venture back southward to Los Santos to complete our loop, and of course turn our attention to the Vega urban legends that cannot be specified in one region or another. For instance, we have strange pictures found in Carl's safe houses all across the map. Players believe these framed photographs are indicators towards myths and legends found in the open world of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. The images are often mirrored, which is very confusing, and in the definitive edition have been replaced with images from Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 in some instances, and this is also true for locations such as the Lil Probe Inn. And it's unclear what, if anything, this is meant to mean. Another rumoured occurrence is that of mysterious phone calls in which Carl will randomly receive a call, answering only to hear static. There are many videos online documenting this. Theories range from the phone calls coming from extraterrestrials all the way to being a simple bug, and others believe these experiences are the result of a mod. And then there's the theory of the Bermuda Triangle, in which if the player either flies or sails far enough away from the playable map, you will lose control of your vessel, whether it be a boat, plane, helicopter or otherwise. This is likely caused by a mechanic that's there to prevent you from sailing off into nothingness, and players have also claimed doing this will teleport you back to the playable map, which if present is likely there to ensure you don't have to swim all the way back. Therefore it's unlikely to be an actual nod to the Bermuda Triangle, which is an urban legend focusing on an area of sea between Bermuda, Florida and Puerto Rico, notorious for rumours of many aircraft and seafaring vessels disappearing in the mid-20th century. And now I've well and truly expired the myths and urban legends I found to be interesting enough to include in this video, and some that probably weren't that worthy. So a question you'd be rightful to ask at this point is, what was the point in this exercise? Being myths and little more than urban legends, the vast majority of things you've gone over probably aren't true, and that is a fair point to make. But on the one hand, I've always found the myths and urban legends of Rockstar games, though nonsensical, to be absolutely fascinating. How a game could foster a community that's entirely focused on things that aren't necessarily there is odd. Furthermore, I feel as if as the years have gone on, Rockstar Games has paid attention to the sheer amount of myths and urban legends and people investigating these things in their games, and started to sprinkle that into their more recent titles, for instance Grand Theft Auto 5, Red Dead Redemption 2. And so I feel as if, regardless of whether or not there's even the slightest nugget of truth in any of these rumours, they had an impact on shaping the future of Rockstar Games titles, and I personally believe that's not something to be dismissed. And GTA San Andreas is at the epicenter for these myths. It appears to be where the very notion of Rockstar Games myth hunting gained traction. And yes, there are many more myths and urban legends than the ones I felt compelled to talk about in today's video. In fact, the list of things players have claimed to be in this game is virtually endless, although it doesn't always go to sensible places. It's how these myths lean into the atmosphere of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that makes them so compelling as well. It's this idea of there being stuff out there still to be found that I'm sure encourages many players to this day to fire up the original version of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and look for these things. Even though there's very likely little to nothing out there, people keep on coming back and keep on searching for things like Bigfoot, the Mothman, aliens, so on and so forth, and new legends are born along the way. And though there are certainly some very cheeky bullshit merchants in that particular area, it's all largely born from the appreciation of a world Rockstar Games crafted, one that makes you think about these things, even if they aren't there. But if you've watched to this part of the video, I'm likely preaching to the converted on that point. So with all that said, I'm now going to conclude this video. Thank you all for watching, I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends, all that wonderful stuff. I would massively appreciate it. And with any luck, I'll be seeing you all very soon with another video at some point. But until next time, please take care and goodbye.